Hi, welcome to the latest episode of Data in the Hallway. My name is Ray Pate, Community Manager at PingCAP, and joined by my colleague from the Netherlands, Daniel Van Eden. Daniel, how are you? Whoops, I think you're on mute, Daniel, but that's okay. But cool. And we're also joined by Chenhe Gu, who's Head of Developer Relations at Dify, and who recently relocated to or who recently moved to the U.S. Not too long ago. And then I got to meet Gu through our TiDB feature at Hackathon. Dify was a sponsor, and then Gu, you also participated as a judge, so you reviewed a lot of our projects as well. So grateful for our partnership for Hackathon and beyond, and other avenues, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Ray, for having
Yeah,
me. It
yeah,
was great
sure.
collaborating with you.
Yeah. So, yeah, before we start talking about Defy, I mean, I'll post links to like the repo and the website in our show notes or podcast description. But if you go to like a Defy.ai, I mean, one of the things you'll notice is that there's a mention of genai. It's like a tool for building genai applications. So I think it would be good to sort of step back and talk about, for people that are not as familiar with AI landscape or Gen AI specifically, talk about what Gen AI is. Like, why don't you tell us about what AI is, and maybe even talk about some of the examples of Gen AI applications.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is a very this might sound simple, but I think in reality this is a very hotly debated topic. What actually GenAI is. And I think Fei Fei Li, one of the godmothers in GenAI, well, I guess in AI field, she had this exact question. So I think, from my perspective, this might be a personal kind of definition. But I think generative AI, um, right now, in the industry, is a well, I guess like an API that does generation based on a LLM or a transformer based neural network. So I think, I think that would be, the definition that I give you today. And we can do many things with it. Like orchestrating different complex applications. And basically integrating this well, I guess text or image next token generation within your existing software layer. So yeah, like we've been seeing different use cases from different industries. But I think broadly people kind of conceive it as a chatbot app. That's currently I think the form factor that it manifests today. But we think that this will be very different in the future, obviously. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, as with everything AI, it's just constantly evolving. I think chatbot uh, is probably something that most people are familiar with, and even things like document generation. I mean, one of the things that I like to use, like ChatGPT for example, is just trying to improve my writing, right? Or even start my writing, and then you feed some information, and it even over the past like 12 months, I noticed the quality of the output is significantly improved, which I'm like constantly amazed by. I mean, the early days, I would sort of it was to a point where I would ignore a lot of the output because the quality wasn't that great. But now, like, I really take it seriously. And the other thing I experimented with recently was image manipulation. Like I had to like manipulate an image, and then um, it did a surprisingly good job. Although that I mean the workload was so heavy that exceeded my like a free limit at certain point. 'Cause I had to wait like another day for my quota to like restart. But yeah, I think that's a great sort of explanation of Gen AI. I think there's a lot of alphabet soup of acronyms in AI field, and I think we don't even think about what that means, or what the definition is. But also, I mean, thanks for reminding us that it's evolving. What Gen AI today, what it can do today, it's probably different from what it's going to look like in 6 months. So Cool. So I think like it was good to sort of level set on Gen AI. I mean, and tell us about your product. Like, how do you help people
Mm.
trying to build like Gen AI applications, and what are some of the things that your users and community members find useful?
Yeah, for sure. So Dify is this open source platform for building GenAI native applications.
Mm,
And the main way that we try to like I guess like let people build, test, and iterate yeah, and either succeed fast or fail fast in
mm,
building their GenAI applications is by kind of like building this API based platform which is developer friendly, but also building this kind of really intuitive to use front end that's browser based and it's a kind of visual workflow orchestration platform. So like I think the cool thing about DeFi is not necessarily that like it's the most powerful platform, because I think as a developer you can probably code up everything just with like just yourself without any framework. But I think the beauty is that with a visual interface and good abstractions, the on the one hand developers can find it really easy to use, and on the other hand, I think it invites other people on the team. For example, like non-technical members, professionals like doctors or financial analysts, for them to come in and really define a business logic through prompts. So I think like that really creates great collaboration, and like it cuts the iteration cycles you need to build applications. So yeah, like I think that's probably something that you don't get really without building GenAI based apps. So yeah.
cool, cool. Yeah, I like I said, I encourage people to check out the website, or I mean, I think your documentation's on your repo is really good as well. So I'll be sure
Thank
to
you.
include that info. Yeah, so so I mean, so we talked about Defy like a software, but let's talk about also the company. Like, when did it start? Like how it got started? Like some of the listeners may know I love the origin stories of open source projects. So like to learn more about like how it got started as an open source project in the company.
Of course. So well, I think this goes back to last May, when our co-founders were still working together at a big tech firm back in China.
Mhm.
And I think what happened was, like I think ChatGPT is basically those like APIs, and how people started to use it with, I guess, RAG and data, like those kind of things were just springing out. And we were very well. I guess the founders were very shocked by, like the ChatGPT and AI's capability. And they kind of foresaw this kind of trend for people to, like build applications and, do software development based on these models. But I think at that time, like there lacked a good framework for, well, I guess initially it was for like tracking observability and monitoring. So, what's so-called LLM ops. So, like they thought out, to build a platform that allows that. But to do that, like they need to first have people building LLM apps first, right? So well, like that became the first step to the platform. And like they built a platform initially for like managing prompts, and then also like integrating data and RAG, and open source that, and that became the start of DeFi. And now,
All right.
obviously,
Yeah.
like we're so far along this road of like
Mhm.
building applications, and
Mhm.
we realize how complex like this whole thing is. Um, and like obviously our users are like they get a lot of values out of it.
Mhm.
So like we've been kind of like digging in more on this path.
Right.
And also it's kind of like this kind of distant story that we have now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that was the origin.
Cool, cool. So yeah, and I think when we met a few weeks ago, you mentioned that a lot of like maybe both of your co-founders, but a lot of your engineers are outside of Shanghai. Like I think it was in Suzhou is where they
Mm.
got started. So
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I've never been to Suzhou, but I encourage people to check out some of the photos on Google. It just looks stunning. I've been to Shanghai many times, but no, I haven't had a chance to visit. So, I mean, obviously, it's a relatively young company, and but I one of the things I noticed when I started working with you are like, I think I was talking to some of the colleagues in Japan. Obviously, you and some of the other colleagues are going to be moving to the US. Like you're already like very international, and one of the things that was
Mm.
really cool when I looked at your repo was that like a lot of your README files are in like multiple languages. Like I don't know like how many I saw like Korean, Vietnamese, Japanese, and even Spanish. So why
Mm.
was it important? Like I mean, did you start with like internet internationalization like from the very early stages of the project, or like yeah, wanted to? I was just very curious about that. It was really cool. But
Yeah, so I think, our CEO Lu Yu, he actually, founded a company with a registered US headquarter from,
mhm,
since last May.
right.
When, when we all got started. So, I think day one globalization was definitely in mind. But
Mhm,
down to the repo level, and the language level, I think this is mostly driven by, community members who, have those needs and who request their readmes or documentations in those
right.
languages.
Right.
I think especially from like other Asian countries like Japan
Mhm,
and also Vietnam. We do see a lot of I guess interest in the product.
mhm,
So it's especially great like seeing community members who contribute to the documentation and localizing this in their own languages.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think I think the cool thing is I think we're seeing such growth at this speed
Mhm.
for our project and this is truly spreading around the globe. But on the other hand, like it does also create pressure on the team members because obviously we're a small team
Mhm.
and like managing all of these different languages and documentations and different needs is not an easy task.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Daniel. Sorry. Like, mm, I, yeah, your audio is
Oh,
like a little choppy. Yeah.
I think it's like very static.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. While Daniel's fixing that, like, uh, let me like quickly jump in. I guess with my like a follow-up question is, I mean, so I'm
Yeah.
guessing that started like pretty organically, like community members in countries like Vietnam and Japan just discovered Dify, and then thought it was like a nice tool, and then they just sort of spoke up and expressed interest in doing different things. So
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
right. So that was the
yeah.
case. And
Mm-hmm.
we have a title called community ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
Actually. So this is for people who has been long been contributing in the community either by
Mm-hmm.
like writing code or like managing their kind of local community members and answering questions on Discord
Right.
and like connecting with team members to like suggest features and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like we had this like in Japan, we had this in Germany, and it already started from like organic interest. And at the end, like we found out like these people who are so dedicated to the project, and we decided to like actually give them the title. And actually like we actually packaged like little gift boxes, and we send
Mm-hmm.
them to like these ambassadors across the globe.
Right.
Yeah, so I think it's like it's overall like just a really cool and really
Right.
rewarding
Right.
experience.
No, I mean that I think that's a great example of open source like working. Like, people discover it. It's easy for people to evaluate, look under the hood if they want to, and then raise your hand because you want something or need something. And yeah, I think that's sort of we're having a little trouble like hearing Daniel's question, but I think that's what it was. But in terms of like having a core group of people, but so yeah, that's really cool. So, I guess somewhat related question. I mean, you started out as an open source from the beginning, but this might be similar to like our co-founders like passion for open source, but why was open source important to you from the beginning? Is it like, I don't know if you were like fully expecting this, like a almost a groundswell of like interest from different countries, but why for the company, like why is being open source important?
We think open source is probably like as I think from a company's vantage point, it has probably been one of the best advertising channels we ever have for free. And like because I think open source naturally first of all adds to quality assurance. It adds to company credibility. And like for us, because we're kind of like really early and like we're a very young company. I think being open source and having a like a really big user base really help us to make the products robust because they provide constant feedback for bugs and inconsistencies. And like I think these all hugely benefits like our end product. And I think this is really the reason why that we have so many enterprise clients nowadays. And like so I think we do owe a lot of the revenue and the gains we have today to our kind of open source community users. So yeah, like I think open source definitely the strategy that like we're gonna stick to. And I think yeah, like like especially in AI where everything is evolving really fast today. Um, yeah, like we just like people to I guess take a framework like ourselves. And like they can go on and change it, modify it, integrate it with their own tools. And like to I guess build great applications. Because I think like funding, yes, revenue, yes, these are important things. But at the end of the day, it's about people building things and building meaningful things. And I think open source really enables that right now. So yeah.
Cool. Nice. So, I think like, I mentioned like your documentation or even in your website. I mean, there are like a couple of references to it, like here's sort of how you get started. Like if somebody wants to start experimenting, like, I mean, especially TiDB community members, like if they want to get started, like experimenting with things with Dify, like even for, I think you even mentioned like even for non-technical people, like what are your sort of your suggestions and what they can try out and what are some of the resources that they can take a look at?
Right. So, for people who are moderately or mildly technical, I
Hmm.
suggest that they start with our Docker Compose, local deployment.
Hmm.
And that includes really all the core features you need to build a robust AI application that you can host
Hmm.
anywhere. And for people who are actually non-technical at all, we
Hmm.
do have an out-of-box kind of service at cloud.defy.ai.
Hmm.
So like if you register an account there, you get a sandbox account, and you can try out our services.
Cool, cool, nice. Yeah, I mean, part of the reason why it was exciting to partner with you for our hackathon was that, I mean, our motivation was, I mean, we wanted people to build like an AI applications with TiDB, but we didn't necessarily feel like, because you have limited time, you have about 4 to 5 weeks to build something, and we wanted to make it like pretty easy. Like, I mean, you can build everything from scratch if you wanted to, but why would you even do that? And then, obviously having like other open source products or tools like Dify was very helpful. And I know a few people have like experimented with Dify, which was really nice. So yeah, I think in the fast moving space, like Gen AI, like you don't want to reinvent the wheel from like each time that you build something. So I think, yeah, having tools like this is really exciting and very helpful for developers. Um, so I mean, this is a like a tough question. Like like we said, like who knows what Gen AI is going to look like in 6 months, but what are some of the things that you're working on today based on feedback from users or customers, or what are some of the things that we can look forward to from Define the next couple of quarters? So,
Oh, that's
yeah,
a great question, actually.
yeah.
I think, well, GenAI applications, I think are still in the very early stage, where people are kind
Mm,
of, exploring across the board. And we're focusing, I think we're gravitating towards more serious use cases. And we found that a lot of the real, use cases that actually add value to teams and businesses, they're not necessarily like the most shiny, right? When you create an agent or multiple agent as a team
mm,
that works for you, that like writes code, writes a PRD and tests it,
mm,
deploy it, and does customer service. It's not like they can handle the whole process like that.
mm,
Um, Instead, we found, customers actually beginning to discover value from really boring use cases. For
yeah,
example, using LLMs to pre-process, financial data before ingesting them in the database. Adding
mm,
labels, adding digests, adding summaries, and then categorizing them. For example, like categorizing or testing, say, questions or law in the that's being added to like a agreement or a question bank.
mm,
So like I think these cases aren't like shiny, like these aren't really fancy use cases. But like I think these boring areas where like when you insert GenAI, you can take out human power, have do more creative things. I think this is where kind of we see where the value lies.
mm,
So I think like we're definitely doing more to support that. And I guess the keyword here would be RAG
mm,
and data, and creating, I guess, like a more open platform that kind of allows different solutions for different use cases to be integrated within the platform, to allow people to handle those things that's tailored to their use cases. I'm kind of talking in a very kind of, I guess, meta level.
mm,
But yeah, like I think in general, like the next step for DeFi would be a much more powerful RAG pipeline as a whole.
mm. Cool.
Yeah. So please look forward to that.
Yeah, no, I mean RAG obviously is it's another like a hot acronym in the AI space. I mean retrieval augmented generation, but it's basically
Mm,
like I mean I'm gonna probably gonna do a poor job of like explaining it, but it's basically improving your output through like relevant content, searching through relevant contents, and then improving your output. That's sort of how I interpreted that,
right.
but I don't know if you want to add to that or not. But so,
Yeah, like I think RAG, well, or I guess another way is to think of it the other way around.
mm-hmm,
It's actually the LLM improving the search results of
mm-hmm,
like an enterprise grade search.
mm-hmm,
So this can be from embeddings, this can be from structured databases, this can be from knowledge
right,
graphs, or it can be like the whole thing combined.
right,
And LLM is actually that layer that adds on top of the whole complex search process to improve the
mm-hmm,
results for people to read and to digest.
right,
Um, yeah, so like I think like which one is thicker, which one is thinner.
mm-hmm,
It's actually I think what most people misunderstand here, or like
right,
they don't necessarily have that clear of a concept. But I think from what we found out is that like the search is actually super rich and very
mm-hmm,
complex.
right,
And the generation part is actually a lot simpler.
right,
Um, but yeah, like that's kind of our perspective on this whole thing.
right,
But yes, I think you did explain it correctly. It's basically
right.
augmenting the LLM results with context you have.
Right, right. No, cool.
Mm.
Like, yeah, I no, I didn't do a really good job of explaining things, but it's like all the rage. Like people talk about. I mean, that's
Yeah.
another acronym. Like people don't, not everybody know like what it stands for, but you hear it
Mm.
so often that you think you understand it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty exciting. And then yeah,
Mm.
we definitely look forward to what's to come. And I mean, you kind of mentioned not the most shiny or sometimes even boring solutions, but I think that's sort of true for like we went through multiple phases of IT development, but even in the early days, the most exciting part was like things like people won't think it's very interesting. Like, automating accounting or inventory management. Like, who gets excited about that unless you're in those fields? But that's where a lot of the benefits came from, like directly or indirectly for a lot of people, right? And then so yeah, I think not really surprising. I mean, that's where like a lot of value lies, but people don't necessarily see it or get excited about it. So it's not a shiny and glowing like a demo that you can see. So cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. So I guess
Right.
that's exactly
Yeah,
right.
that's another good way of putting it. So cool. So yeah, I mean I think yeah, I think I reached the end of our list of questions. Really appreciate coming on, and thanks again for partnering with us during the hackathon, and that gave us an opportunity to introduce a tool to a lot of our community members. So that was really cool. And again, thanks for being a judge. You went through a lot of different projects, so and we really appreciate it. Like people like you, like outside of the company, spending time evaluating projects, and yeah, I really appreciate you doing that. So cool. So we reached the sort of the final question of all of our podcast episode. We ask all of our guests to tell folks about where you live, and you just recently, within the last couple of months, it's probably been less than 2 months. You moved to Mountain View, California. So you're probably a good person to talk about like Mountain View because you probably noticed a lot of things. You've been exploring the area, but yeah, tell us
Mhm.
what you like about Mountain View, California.
Well, yeah. So, I moved here in early September, and I'll be probably based here long term for the foreseeable future. And like I think I've been just surveying all the like cafes around the area, and there are a lot of good ones, which I really like. But I think the place I frequented the most is this Zen center called Jikoji. And it's located in the Los Gatos Mountains. I've been there probably like like 5, 6 times in the past like month and a half. And like it's this really kind of tranquil Zen center that like you can go in anytime to meditate yourself. And they also have a Sunday service in the morning for you to register and like do like kind of like a guided meditation session with lunch and everything. And I just think that that place really brings me peace. And the overall atmosphere and the vibe, it's really calming. And yeah, so like I encourage people if they visit, Bay Area, they find some time to go there and visit.
Cool. Really, really nice. I think I've seen signs driving near there in Los Gatos. It's really nice area. But yeah, I'll go have to go.
Mm.
I'll have to go check it out. So I mean, having lived in the Bay Area for a long time, but I haven't been yet. So maybe this is a good encouragement to go check things out. So
Yeah, next time we
all
can
right.
go together for sure.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Let's do it. Yeah,
Cool.
let's sit down and
All
talk.
right. So, well, thanks for your time, coming on to our episode, and then yeah, I mean, maybe we'll have you back, and maybe we'll talk about RAG and other alphabet soups of AI in the future episode.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having me.
cool. All right, thank you. Bye.
Cool.